Starry nights just watching, weary eyes reminded of all he's forgotten. New day on the horizon, midnight calls, the wind comes in through windows and old walls. She says time is a rerun of playing God for a season. We go down to the river, whether saint or sinner, we've all got ties to the giver. We all go down to the river, lay me down when the night falls, give our bones when the time calls. Oh my brother, my sister, we all go down to the river.
We're standing on some of the highest peaks in the Blue Mountains. Behind us, this is part of the catchment of Dalpura Creek, one of those beautiful, clean mountain streams. A lot of people come here to actually go down the canyon or to look at these beautiful sandstone pagoda formations. This is beautiful. It's conserved as National Park. It's also a wilderness area, and all of this area is protected as a UNESCO Natural World Heritage Area. Dalpura Creek is an example of what waterways in the Sydney Basin and the Blue Mountains used to look like before Europeans came here. This is as clean as it looks. I've been coming here for about a decade studying this. Its waters have more H2O and less of anything else. It really is sparkling, clear, very low minerals, and the type of metals you get here, iron and manganese and aluminium, they help give sandstone the colour. But into these beautiful waters, they flow down into the National Park, into the Grose River, and then it flows into the Hawkesbury Nepean. No barrier. Very rare for Australia to have these live wild rivers. But next we're going to look what happens to this creek. It gets affected from mining and nothing is ever the same again. Dalpura Creek should be one of the most pristine, clean waterways going down into a highly protected part of the Grose River and Blue Mountains National Park, World Heritage Area. But behind us, this is the residual effects of mining. The Canyon coal mine closed in 1997, nearly 25 years ago. This is drainage that still comes out today because they've cracked the strata. Drainage seeps into the old mine workings, hits the coal, the sulphur, dissolves metals, and you can actually see behind us this whole periodic table of metals: aluminium, iron, manganese. But the nasty one you can't see is nickel and zinc, and this causes a contamination plume going down Dalpura Creek into the Grose River. So this mine shut down 1997. There was not one piece, not one action in terms of repairing the damage. This is an ecological disaster. The mining industry has walked away from it, but what makes it worse is that the regulators allowed them to do so. The mine operated for over 50 years, made lots of money, shipped coal away from here, but who cleans up the damage? The answer is no one. The problem is left for the environment, one of the most sensitive and protected areas in the world, and for future generations. And this is what concerns me about the mining industry, in Australia in particular. We're happy to exploit new sources of ore, jobs and growth, but then we get left with this. So who fixes this up? And this is why we're looking at a toxic waterfall coming out. And I'm really sorry to say this, but this will probably be a toxic waterfall in a century from now.
Not only is water the lifeblood of our landscape, but it also is in us. So ultimately what pollutes our waterways actually makes it into our bodies. If you think about it, when our drinking water is polluted, we are consuming that, and this can't always be filtered out. We're seeing toxic heavy metals actually accumulating in our watercourses. Even if mines are located outside of the World Heritage Area, they are making it into these beautiful watercourses that are coming downstream and flowing into our water supply.
Warrami everyone, my name's Chris Tobin. I'm a Darug man, and we're up here at the art camp. It's a camp that I host up in the Blue Mountains on the Darling Causeway. People come and we talk over all sorts of issues, but it is an opportunity for people to connect with Aboriginal people and connect with country, and it does that for me. This little area here was disturbed. It's why I set up here. We're pulling out oil drums. I've banked up rubbish at the entrance of the driveway here, with the idea that if the state was serious about caring for the country and looking after it, they would have cleaned that rubbish up. They're not that concerned to do that. Mind you, there is so much more damage that they should be dealing with, but they've pretty much finished their work here. The rehabilitation plan finished in 2016, so the infrastructure that's left is going to be with us, and the damage to the water is the one that probably concerns us the most. So surrounding this bit of area is all World Heritage National Park. The plan was that this bit of Crown land that was used as a coal mine since the 90s and has finished up since was going to be a part of the World Heritage System, but the government cannot get enough money, and so aside from the money they've made destroying this place, pulling coal out, they're wanting to now sell it. So it becomes very distressing when we can't discharge our ancestral obligations, and have to watch the place get destroyed.
One of the biggest problems that I've seen with environmental contamination from mining is the fact that no responsibility or onus is put back on the mine. And so when we do close and we shut up shop and we leave, there was never a responsibility to begin with.
Yeah.
So then there's no one to clean it up.
Yeah. And well, what happens when the mine closes really and the environmental protection licence is in essence cancelled? They're done, they move on, and these contaminants are still flowing out for potentially a century. So ultimately what we're seeing is everyone packs up shop and moves on, and these mines, most of them aren't actually being rehabilitated.
So with Red Bank Creek, what has happened is there's been longwall mining underneath the creek, and we've seen geological fractures happening, and those fractures are now on the surface. So all of that lovely water that we originally had has flown through those cracks. It's mixed in with the groundwater, and then that groundwater has been pushed back up to the surface, and all the metals that were in the groundwater then come up. They oxidize with the air, and so we start to see a really red rust kind of layer on top of the water, and that surface water is no longer habitable for ecological life.
Yeah.
So there's no oxygen in the water, a cocktail of metals, nothing can live there. And those cracks are so big that I'm really skeptical that we'll ever see flow back in there. And that's some of the long-term, that will become a legacy problem. That's a long-term problem that I'm really skeptical we will be able to fix.
We just need to learn to really protect places like this, not just because it's best for the environment, because it's what's best for us.
We're standing at Sunny Corner, perhaps ironically, because it's a pretty gloomy day. But behind us is part of the Australian mining industry. This was a boom town 120 odd years ago. European Australia has had a very, very rich relationship with mining, which we have today. This once housed thousands and thousands of people. Rich industry, and we're talking about precious metals here, silver, lead, zinc, etc. But this is what happens with mining. Now we're only about 45 minutes west of the centre of the Blue Mountains. We're right on the edge of the Great Divide. We're up high, we're getting close to 1,200 metres here. And this combination of the geology with volcanics has created these rich mineral resources. But what upsets me is what we're looking at here. See, there's not a lot of vegetation. It's too toxic for plants to tolerate this because mining shut down over 100 years ago, and these are the messages we really need to remember and learn from. And a place like Sunny Corner for me is really important legacy. How are we making sure that our future mine does not create an ecological disaster like this one? There's been very little rehabilitation, there's been a few efforts, but unfortunately this is the history we need to learn. When you mine a lot of these beautiful rich seams, you can create a toxic reaction, chain reaction that continues to today. So there's a good reason why this is clear around us. It's not herbicide, it's toxic. Plants can't grow here. And the water coming out of here is even worse, as we'll see. Water is a really powerful solvent, and it can dissolve. It has amazing abilities to break down, dissolve, and mobilise pollution. And although this mine shut over 100 years ago, several mines are honeycombed in the hills around us. Because they've set off this process, the mine, the sulphur, the ore, the water combine, and they're mobilising this pollution which is coming out of these mine shafts, these mine diggings, 100 years later. I don't like this water at all. I know a bit about what's in it. I don't want any contact at all with this. So I'm going to get a sample and we're going to get some more lab testing done. Now that looks like water. I've actually seen water that looks far worse than that. Looks can be deceiving. Dissolved in this, it's very, very acidic, but it's absolutely loaded with toxic levels of metals. This gives us some clue. This is a reason why there's nothing growing around here. But water is really good at mobilising pollutants in here, and that's gone down and it enters the Turon River system, joins the Macquarie River, and it becomes part of the Murray-Darling. There's almost no life here. There's a really tough algae growing here. There's always something in nature that can exploit contaminated conditions. But overall, just downstream from here, would you drink this? It could be the last thing you ever did. But one of the big things we see with a lot of these mines is the zinc.